Millennials, generally identified as individuals born between 1981 and 1996, experienced a unique cultural moment growing up. But what about the generations that followed? There's no denying that Gen Z has had a unique upbringing, missing out on many of the experiences millennials have enjoyed. From dial-up internet to playing physical board games, millennials got to experience a time that is now nostalgic for Gen Z. Hence, one can say it's for good reason that the Gen Zs get to have a peek at how things were back then. What set the millennials aside from Gen Z was the awestruck that came with various inventions in the past. Millennials grew up during a time of rapid technological development and experienced many of the iconic moments that shaped their generation. The experience was pleasant and fascinating at the same time, as that was where the gadgets existing today emerged from. Nowadays, things that exist are mere upgrades of what were invented during the era of the millennials. So, let's check out 10 things millennials enjoyed that Gen Z missed out on. Number 1. Photo albums. Physical photo albums are one of the things that a few of Generation Z might know nothing about. Even though they still exist today, they aren't as rampant as they were back then, and so it's only a matter of time before they are completely phased out. The photo album in question here are books that are used to store and display photographs physically. They have given way to various other digital alternatives like Google Clouds and other apps. People even use their various social media handles as a means to save pictures. One of the things that exempts photo albums from Gen Z's type of storage are the tactile experience of going through the pages physically. For a bookworm, this can serve as a means of relaxation. Furthermore, what better way to bring the family together than going through a photo album with family and friends over a picnic or Thanksgiving? It creates an emotional and sentimental feeling that strengthens family bonds. Undoubtedly, you'll definitely not see those kinds of gathering around these days. However, endeavor to check the box or basement where they keep the family heirloom. You might be lucky to come across a photo album. Number 2. Transistor radios. Another thing that was quite popular during the millennial era was the transistor radio. They are basically small portable radio receivers that work based on transistor-based circuitry. They were used to listening to the news, music, and most people even use them to follow up on sports. This created a unique sense of community that helped to create good connections, since at the time, many could easily listen at the same time. There's also the thrill of tuning into a radio station. Everyone had a favorite station they could stay glued to all day. It could be a sports channel, news, entertainment, etc. Since the radio was easy to tune, it caused no problem whatsoever. Looking back at the relevance of transistor radios back then, it is safe to say that they were quite significant in the music and media industry. Aside from their portability, they helped to ensure that various information and culture reached the far ends and corners of the world. Number 3. Landline phones. It's true that landline phones are still quite popular in modern times, but one might ask, for how long? Once upon a time, landlines existed in each and every home and office as a primary means of communication. However, that's not the case now. These days, they only exist more in offices than in homes. Only a few bourgeoisie found it necessary to have them installed in their homes. If you've been unlucky to spot a landline, just know that they are a kind of phone connected to a physical line, which is totally different from a cellular phone that needs no physical connection. Even though they aren't portable like the latter, they create a sense of reliability during power outages and a sense of permanence by having them in a place. Not to mention the vintage physical feel of using the rotatory dial buttons. Pretty cool, right? Number 4. Rolodex. Rolodex is one of the things that are currently non-existent. It's a mechanical rotating card file that was quite popular back in the days. It was serving as a tool that helped organize various contact information like address, phone number, and business names. What's more, the arrangement was in an alphabetical order, making it easy for anyone to navigate. Rolodex encouraged one to develop good organizational skills, which one can say most people from the Gen Z lack. Besides that, it was also efficient at the time. Because of the uses of Rolodex, there were always always placed close to the landlines for easy accessibility. Number 5. Yellow Pages. Still talking about directories? The Yellow Pages were one of the most beneficial kinds that existed in the millennial era. The Yellow Pages consisted of different business names arranged in alphabetical order. In every business listed, their address and contact details were also enlisted. This means that people could get hold of a plumber, painter, doctor, or any other professional through the book. However, that's not all. People were also able to locate a restaurant using the book as well. Let's say it partly served as Google at the time. Even though people found using this book hectic, that wasn't always the case. Depending on the services one was searching for, it could actually be a fun experience, especially with a partner. Regardless, the Yellow Pages weren't ideal in terms of urgency. Number 6. Game consoles like the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1. When you look at the gaming world, there has also been some transitioning. Initially, around 1991, Nintendo was the leader in the gaming industry. This was until they stopped producing consoles in the year 2000. Afterward, Sony's PS1 picked up the role and followed suit. Gaming was completely different then. The consoles that existed were built in a box shape and there were various games to play. The controllers were rather complex as well. While some had buttons, others were simply joysticks. However, now, Sony's PlayStation and Xbox have metamorphosed into various variants over the years, like the PS2, PS3, PS4, and PS5. With more to come, online gaming is also introduced, something that never existed before. However, regardless of all the upgrades, there is no doubt that the basic Nintendo would make its way to the museum soon as a vintage game. Number 7. VHS tapes. The list will probably not be complete without mentioning the VHS tapes. The video home system tapes were quite popular during the millennial era. They served as a format to record and play back analog videos. This include home videos, movies, and television shows. Because of their bulkiness, they were hard to store at home, and so there were VHS rental stores where one could go rent a movie to watch. Nowadays, DVDs and online streaming have taken over. The Gen Z spends time on Netflix and other streaming platforms as a means of entertainment. Number 8. Floppy disks. The joy of saving and sharing data by physically passing a floppy disk, many thought it would never get old. But it literally got old. The use of fragile magnetic disks as a primary storage means was popular during the millennial times. Even though they were easily susceptible to damage, they were the most efficient storage means for anyone who had a computer system. However, they've been ruled out by the USB, DVDs, and CDs. Although because of their popularity, it's quite easy to spot one or two on a shelf somewhere. You should look out for them. Number 9. Myspace and Xanga. You simply can't mention the early days of social networking without mentioning Myspace and Xanga. Before Twitter and Facebook became a thing, these two were reigning. While Myspace was popular among young adults and teenagers, Xanga was a blogging platform. They were doing pretty well before the likes of Twitter and Facebook emerged and took over. As a member of Gen Z, it's possible that you might have heard of them, but certainly you weren't a user in any, and this makes them worth being on the list. Number 10. Cassette Player. What would life possibly be without music? Boring would be an understatement, don't you think? Music is something that many have kept on enjoying over the years, and one of the gadgets that served the purpose for the millennials is the cassette player. The cassette players weren't really as fancy as the modern day MP3s. They involved the use of cassettes, which were quite tiring to fast forward or rewind. Regardless, they had their good times. One of them is the joy of being able to create unique mixtapes by oneself. That's about it, folks. I'm sure you must be feeling that nostalgia now. Know that it's alright to try to relive these moments if you're able to, and it happens to be that most millennials are good keepers. And so, if you're a Gen Z, endeavor to ask about a few things on the list. Meanwhile, as a millennial, did we leave something important out? Endeavor to let us know what you think Gen Z is missing out on. And remember, hit the like button and subscribe for more interesting content. Thanks and bye for now.